I met a gypsy.
How much of it, because you're a super smart guy, and I think a lot of people, especially back then, would have been like, here's this crazy fucking dude that's just going around all the tattoos and backflips and he's got spikes on his fucking armor. And how much were you playing that same game that Deegan was?
I wasn't. I was not playing any games. That's also why I didn't get lumped into all that bullshit. You know, I mean, Deegan is a smart guy, but if you go shake that tree, you're going to find a lot of pissed off people over in that camp. You know, and that's none of my business or anything to talk about. But I stayed in my own lane. You know, I had a plan, and
so you did have a plan.
I mean, my plan was as much like of what I tried to do in motocross. I treated it as a business. I mean, I wanted to have a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong, and I wanted to go party with all the boys, but I tried to make it a business from a standpoint of leading up to when freestyle popped in '98. I was living in my van racing supercross and outdoors for the prior 5 years before that. No mechanic. I had $100 a week and a calling card. Okay. Like, I didn't want to go back to living in my van. Great times. I had an amazing time doing it, and I wouldn't trade it for nothing, but I felt like I did have a plan, and my plan was to bust my ass and ride and try to be innovative and be my own person. Because at that time, it's like, dude, I don't want to be lumped in with a bunch of other dudes. I mean, I think Mike Metzger did a really good job for a long time being his own self.
Yeah.
Travis was being his own self. You know, Deegan and Larry had their thing going on. I was just going to kind of stay in my lane and do my thing. And I was going to work really closely and good with my sponsors. And luckily enough, I got hooked up with Steve Asafin, who's the same manager that Pastrana has. And I worked, you know, like, I didn't just cash a check and go out and buy a sports car or a nice house. I worked with my sponsors. I worked with my team managers. And through those relationships is what helped me learn to build my brands. Because I didn't go to college. I didn't have a rich dad or anybody a sounding board. It was just me and my sponsors and my manager. And I spent time with my sponsors, like, why are you paying me a bunch of money? You know, well, you're going to be the face of this new line or this new boot or this new gear. And, you know, we want the people that follow you to purchase this stuff. So I learned from all that. I could tell you, I made 200 plus mistakes in every business I've ever started, whether it's race teams, tattoo shops, all of it, payroll, whatever. But I knew how to build a brand. Yeah. I knew how to market it. And that's that perception. And if you do that right, 7 times out of 10, everything else will work out. Yeah. You know? But yeah, I did have a plan, but I wanted to be professional about it. I wanted to have my own persona and my own self, which that was me. That was the nice thing. I didn't have to act. You know, it was just me. You know, I was Vegas kid. I was dude lived next door to TJ Lavin, rode BMX and rode moto and was friends with everybody and rode my ass off and partied my ass off and was always on time for autograph signings. And, you know, and one thing I could tell people, if you look at my career from 98 until arguably whenever the end of it was, technically, you know, my last year doing contests.
Yeah, what is the end?
I don't know. Who knows? So,
I don't think there is like a...
Say it's 2015. So you look at that, you know, 13-year window, I was hurt a majority of it. Yeah, there was a period of 3 years where I didn't even ride a motorcycle, but I kept my sponsors. And I think the moral to that story is, it ain't about what you do on the bike. It's about what you do off the bike or the skateboard or the bicycle or anything else. You know, I worked hard and I worked hard with my sponsors and my fan base, and I busted my ass off my bike probably more than I did on my motorcycle. And that's what gave me my longevity. I got 4 medals to my name. And you know what? If I had 3 or 2 or 1, it wouldn't make a difference anyways. Yeah. I think my work ethic is what, you know, and my own desire to be my own person is kind of what just gave me my longevity.
Well, you mentioned Steve. He's like this crazy behind the scenes, like puppet master almost, and not in like the negative puppet master. Like, he's responsible for a lot of shit.
Oh, he is. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm one of his first,
Steve Aston.
Yeah.
Steve Aston.
Yeah.
Just listening.
Yeah. Steve Aston with Wasserman. I was one of his first 8 athletes. You know, it was me and Bucky Lassick and Bob Burnquist and Dave Mirra, Ryan Nyquist, and a couple other people. I mean, even Travis came on a couple of years after us. And
he was Sheckler's dude.
Sheckler. I mean, he was Sean White for a long time. I mean, you name it, every banger he's got.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and the thing that was great about Steve was where I didn't have a college education and I didn't have the know-how to negotiate my own contracts at the time and all that stuff. I had a person I could trust that was like, look, you just go do you. You focus on writing and working with your sponsors and working with your fan base and being at all the events, and let me do all the nasty part. You know, I'll do your contracts and, you know, handle all the billing and I'll be good cop, or he's like, I'll be bad cop, you be good cop. And, you know, over the years, I learned a lot through Steve, and even through, I mean, still to this day, he's still my manager. We've been together for 20 years, and he helped me, you know, get my Supercross team started. And I learned a lot from Steve. And then the irony of it is fast forward all these years later, I can now start the conversations and get the iron in the fire with a sponsor, and like through my Supercross team, you know, a lot of the sponsors collectively between myself or Kenny or whoever, like we brought the sponsors, and then Steve just kind of closed it and did the contracts. So I was fortunate enough to learn a lot from Steve through those years. So we've always had a great working relationship that way, where I could learn from him, and he was always really honest with me. But behind the scenes, yeah, I mean, he was the backbone of, I mean, you go back and look through, you know, all the top action sports athletes from the mid 90s until current day. I bet Steve has represented 80 to 90% of them, or has had some influence in them along the way to help steer them through their career.
It's definitely crazy. And I think that there's a lot of people that talk shit about him. And I mean, I've had nothing but good experiences with him.
I mean, he's a fucking agent.
He's an agent, yeah. But like, when you just look at what you said, like 80, 90% of people that exploded, like created this bubble.
Oh yeah,
he's been a part of. And it's like, if you looked at the butterfly effect of Steve Astafin,
oh yeah,
there's a lot of fucking money. There's a lot of shit that went down.
Yeah, 100%.
Because of this dude.
I mean, he's Ken Roxon's manager. You know, I mean, he's a bright dude. Like, I mean, the funny thing is, he's only 3 years older than me. Yeah, I mean, you know, we got together in our 20s. Yeah, no, he's a guy I'd love to actually get on the podcast, because he's a super interesting cat he's had a hand in a lot. Yeah. Like, I just think people would actually kind of freak out to know how much stuff he was actually a part of. Yeah. I mean, it'd even be funny. I would like to hear that, you know, because there's a lot of stuff I don't remember due to the hops and the barley and everything in between, you know.
We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com, packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125. Gypsy Gang.